documents in sales and distribution. So I think we have already discussed this many times, but still I will show you how to check the incompleteness. So whenever you wanted to ensure that all the fields in your sales document is completed, and you don't want to have any issues in creating the subsequent documents because of missing value in any one of the fields, then you can adopt this technique of incompleteness procedure. So when we defined a sales document type, you remember that we saw one field there called the incompletion procedure. How many of you remember? I'm not sure, but I remember having shown that to you. So if you go to sales documents, sales document header, define sales document types. Here, if you go to standard order OR, in the standard order OR, you can go to details. There you can see that there is an incompletion procedure 11 that is defined here. Similarly, when I go to item, sales documents item, and define item categories, and I can select my item category TAN and click on select this, go to details screen. There also I can see incompletion procedure 20 is assigned here. Similarly, for schedule line category as well, I can go and select define schedule line category. For our schedule line category, for example, CP, can select this, go to details screen. Can see that there is an incompletion procedure 30 that is assigned here. So now what is this incompletion procedure? We can check that. So we can go to SPRO basic functions. In that you can go to log of incomplete terms. Click on log of incomplete terms. Define, here we have 3 steps. First is define incompleteness procedure, assign incompleteness procedure, and define status groups. Now if you go to the assign incompleteness procedure, here you see you can assign your incompleteness procedure to sales document type. You can assign incompleteness procedure to your item category. You can assign incompleteness procedure to your schedule line category. These 3 we have seen. Then you can also assign procedure to your partner function. Can assign procedure to sales activities. Can assign this to delivery types and to delivery item category as well. So now if I go and select this, it will take us to this screen where you can see that the incompletion procedure 11 has been assigned to our sales document type OR. So if you go to OR, it sees that 11 is assigned. So similarly, you can select for item types also delivery item categories, like how we have item categories for sales order. You will have item categories for delivery documents also. So delivery item categories, these are, for example, let us go to standard delivery item category TAN. Here also you don't have any incompleteness procedure assigned. Had there been an incompleteness procedure, then it would have been assigned here. So now let us check how the incompleteness procedure is defined. So define incompleteness procedure, you can select. So we have grouped the different places for which you can assign incompleteness. So the incompleteness can be activated at sales header, sales document item, sales document schedule line, at partner function, at sales activity document level, at delivery header and item. So these are the places where you could activate your incompleteness procedure. So for example, we can select where you wanted to have your incompleteness procedures. So you can have incompleteness procedures at these places. So now for header, let us check how it is configured. So if you want to check that, you can select this line, go to procedures. So you have these many procedures that are present for the sales document header. So in our case, we saw that our standard sales document type OR has been assigned with incompleteness procedure 11. So we are more interested in looking at how 11 is configured. So select this 11 and go to fields. Now, whichever fields you feel that they are significant, and if they are not filled in the sales order, then you want to prevent further processing of the sales document. So those fields you can add it here. So you can add your own fields here. So for example, if you feel that the purchase order number is a very important field, and you wanted the user to update the purchase order field with before saving, then you should add your field here. The field in description will come here. This is the technical field name and the table. So we can, where we can find purchase order number, so we can go to VBAK table, and there you can find the purchase order field. So put that field here. Then the screens, which screen it will appear. So each screen has its own name. So whether it will appear in the overview screen, or whether that field will appear in the header screen or the item screen, that we can mention, and we can assign a status group here. And then we have other options like warning and then the sequence. So warning, in the sense, the system will, whether you want the system to give you a warning saying that this particular field is not filled, so this will stop further processing. Whether you want the system to give such a warning, or just you want the system to remain silent, that you can decide by placing the check here. And once you have done this, you can save your changes. So you can add your field, you can go to display or change option, and you can add your own field here. The system, you can create new entries, and the system will allow you to add your own fields here. So VBAK is one of the header field. So which field you wanted to add here? So purchase order number, if I think that it is very important, then I can go and select that particular field and I can add it here. So I don't remember the exact name for that. So maybe we need to select purchase order number. So that is not present in VBAK. So maybe it is present in VBKD field. Okay. So this is the field BSTNK. If you want, you can add that field here. So in which screen it would appear. So you can select that screen. So it will appear in the header PO data screen. So you can select that screen, and what status you want to assign. So we can define our own status groups, or you can have a predefined statuses that can be assigned. So that either it would be 01, 02, 03. We have something like this. So essentially you can assign any status group, like for example 6 if I assign, and then I can save this. So this is how you can add your fields to your incompletion procedure. And if you want, you can define your own status. So what does this status mean? So what is the significance of this status 06? So now if you want to check that, you can go to here, define status groups. So 06. So you can see that what are the things that it will control. So if you want a certain process to be prevented from happening. So if you want, in case if this particular field is missing, you don't want the delivery to happen, then you don't need to check here. So if this is not checked, that means it will not allow that process to happen. So here it is, everything is ticked, so it will allow everything to happen, but it will not, wherever you don't mark that field, then it means that that particular process the system will block. So you can create your own incompletion status groups, and you can have your own checks put here accordingly. So whenever you tick that, that process will be allowed by the system. So it will allow you to save the order, but it will not allow you to create delivery. Means you just need to put it in 01. So it will allow you to save, but it will not allow you to create delivery. So if that, in case if that field is not filled properly. So likewise, you can set your own status groups, and you can assign that status group to your particular incompletion, that field, and that field you can put it in your incompletion procedure, and that procedure needs to be assigned, and that is depending on these different uh, scenarios. So it can be assigned to header, item, schedule line of the sales order, or partner function, sales activity, delivery header, or item. So this is about the log of incomplete terms. So any doubts from anyone?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So let us move further then. So the next concept that we have lined up for today is about the usage of outline agreements and contracts. So let us go to that. Mm. Unit 5. So unit 5. So generally, what does a contract mean? So that contract generally defines a certain agreement which you have with your customer, that you will supply certain quantity of a material at a certain price within a certain period of time. So that is a contract. So you have seen many contracts, right? So you call it as a tender or contract, whatsoever it is. So based on that tenders, you will be awarded certain contracts. So contract is a legal obligation, like you are agreeing to do some work at the particular price point and within a particular time frame. So that is what a contract means. So SAP also, we have different ways of addressing this business scenario of contracts. So we have something called an outline agreement. So outline agreements can be split up as scheduling agreements or contracts. So these are the two major categories of an outline agreement. So in that we have something called a scheduling agreement and a contract. So what is a scheduling agreement and what is a contract is what we are going to see. So generally outline agreements in SAP is split into scheduling agreements and contracts. So what is scheduling agreement and what is a contract, we will be seeing. So scheduling agreement is nothing but we have a specific document type DS which represents scheduling agreements. So although we will not be going into much detail about scheduling agreements, but just for understanding purpose, scheduling agreement is nothing but it is also similar to that of a sales document type, but it will have some uh, quantities and dates on which those quantities would be delivered. So scheduling agreement will carry, so for example, you create a scheduling agreement for some 100 pieces. And inside the scheduling agreement, you will be seeing that out of the 100 pieces, these 100 pieces would be split up into 10 rows and each row will have 10 pieces. So that first 10 will be delivered on 30th of this month. Second 10 will be delivered on 30th of next month. Likewise, it will be having a delivery dates against those delivery dates. There would be quantities that would be delivered on those dates. So that is a very simple explanation of what is a scheduling agreement is. Scheduling agreements generally would be used in component manufacturing or automobile manufacturing industries where it involves delivering of multiple components. So in those cases, the delivery scheduling agreement plays a very significant role. So what happens ideally is a scheduling agreement is an outline agreement. As I told you, like it is an outline agreement, one type of an outline agreement between you and your customer, which is called a sold to party, that is valid for a specified period of time. So the scheduling agreement contains fixed delivery dates and quantities. So this is what I told you. When a scheduling agreement is due for delivery, you can create the delivery either by using an outbound delivery document or by using a delivery due list. So at that particular date, when the material is due for delivery, on that date, you can create a delivery document against that scheduling agreement. So when you enter the schedule lines for an item in the scheduling agreement, the system adds the quantities that have already been entered. So the system then compares the total to both the target quantity and the quantity that is already shipped. This gives you an overview of all open quantities. So what they are saying, whenever you keep entering new lines with new quantities, then that total quantity of the schedule line keeps changing. So that would become the target quantity. And every time when you make a delivery, that quantity would get minused from or subtracted from the target quantity, and it will leave you with the remaining quantity. So that remaining quantity is called the open quantity, and the original quantity is called the target quantity. So this is how the scheduling agreement works. So if the quantity in the schedule line exceeds the target quantity, the system issues a warning. So based on the customer requirement, you can process invoices periodically. So for this month, for example, every week you are supposed to deliver some quantity, some 10 quantities you are delivering every week. Then collectively at the end of this month, you can process an invoice for the quantities that you have delivered this month. So scheduling agreement can go up to a validity of say 1 month or 6 months, so whatsoever it is. So after the validity ends, then you cannot use the schedule line scheduling agreement. So that is about a scheduling agreement. So the next outline agreement that we would be discussing is the contracts. So any doubts so far on the scheduling agreement?
No, sir.
Okay, so contracts. So let us move ahead with the next concept of contracts. So what is a contract and what are the different types of contracts that we can use in SAP SD? Here you can see we have something called a quantity contract, value contract, price contract, and cost contract. So quantity contract is nothing but it is a contract between you and the customer. Value contract is nothing but it is a contract between you and the customer. Price contract is nothing but it is a contract between you and the supplier. And cost contract is nothing but it is a contract between you and the supplier. and rental contract, service or a maintenance contract. So first you have something called the quantity contract, then you have something called the value contract, then you have rental contract, then you have service and maintenance contract. So each one of them, let us go and check how they are defined in the system. So quantity contract, what does it mean? That means it is also an agreement between you and your customer, wherein you agree to supply a certain quantity of material for a certain period of time. So it is an agreement between you and your customer, wherein you agree to supply a certain quantity of material within a specified period of time. So here it is only purely based on the quantity. For example, you have a material A and you have a customer, and you have agreed with that customer that you will supply this material A some thousand quantity, some 1000 kgs within a period of say some 6 months. So some 1st of October until March 31st. For the next 6 months, I will supply this 1000 kg. This is just an agreement. It will not have any schedule line dates or any schedule line quantities, unlike the scheduling agreement. Scheduling agreement will have fixed dates and fixed quantities, whereas quantity contracts will not have any specific dates or any quantities. So this is the quantity contract, and the standard document type used SAP to represent this is have it as QC. Okay. So then it will have a validity date. So from 1st of October to until 31st of March. So you are agreeing to supply a certain quantity of material. So that is the quantity contract. So then we will have something called a value contract. So let us look at how this value contract, what does it mean? So just give me a minute. Just give me a minute, guys. I will be back.
Hello, Kuldeep आणि Omkar. Hello. Hello.
हो.
अरे ते ओमकारला विचारलं त्यांनी केलं होतं का ते ट्रकचं आणि कुलदीपला पण बहुतेक त्यांना आवाज जात नाही. हॅलो हा
हॅलो.
कुलदीप हा
हा. नाही मित्र, मी पण नाही, बिझी होतो.
नाही केलंच नाही का अजून एकदा?
नाही.
ठीक आहे ठीक आहे. चालेल. हॅलो सौरभ, मगाशी सरांना काय विचारत होता ते 44 नंबर? 44 नंबर एक्सरसाइज मधलं काय विचारत होता?
तेच ना, ते मटेरियल आपलं लिस्टेड नव्हतं.
तू कोणती विंडो उघडली होती तिथे? मग अशी भलतीच विंडो उघडली होती तिथे.
आणि बरोबर
मटेरियलची मटेरियलची विंडो
आधी
उघडली होती तू.
कस्टमर मटेरियल क्रिएट करायचं राहतं, नंतर त्याच्यात ते होतं, पण मग तेच क्रिएट नव्हतं.
44 काय एक्सरसाइज बघ ना, त्यांनी काय करायला लावलंय पहिले. क्रिएट स्टँडर्ड ऑर्डर.
अरे टास्क मध्ये पाहायचं.
टास्क 3 आणि टास्क 1 2 3 झालं. 1 2 झालं का तुझं?
अरे पण मग तरी पण मटेरियल तर आधी असं थोडी राहतं ते. कस्टमर मटेरियल कधी पण क्रिएट करू शकतो ना आपण.
अरे ते कोरिलेट असतं सौरभ. टास्क 1 टास्क 2
असं नाही.
नाही आहे का असं काही? नक्की का?
सर बोलले ना, आता तुझ्या मटेरियल आधी म्हणजे आता ते काय होतं, आधी सोल्ड टू पार्टी होतं. सोल्ड टू पार्टीला तू काय डिस्ट्रीब्युशन चॅनल आणि सेल्स और काय घेतलाय त्याच्यावर डिपेंड. त्याच्यामुळे ओपन नव्हतं होत ना ते. बाकी तिथं कुठं काय जास्त एवढं
कोणतं
इन्फॉर्मेशन
मटेरियल
विचार.
आहे ते? TATD
ATD
आणि आपल्याला क्रिएट कधी करायला लावलंय ते? कोणत्या मटेरियल कशात क्रिएट करायला लावलंय? मास्टर डेटा मध्ये ना. क्रिएट कस्टमर क्रिएट हा बघ, क्रिएट अ मटेरियल मास्टर रेकॉर्ड ना, बरोबर ना?
हा
क्रिएट अ कस्टमर मटेरियल इन्फो रेकॉर्ड. मटेरियल का कस्टमर मटेरियल? काय म्हटलंय
कस्टमर
सर?
इन्फॉर्मेशन क्रिएट.
कस्टमर मटेरियल ना. त्यात बघावं लागेल मग ते मटेरियल टाकून, मटेरियल आणि कस्टमर टाकून बरोबर आहे का सगळं.
कालपर्यंत येत होतं, आजच काय.
कालपर्यंत कसं काय होतं? काल तू केली होती ही ऑर्डर, तुझी सक्सेस नव्हती होत ना. आपण नाही का करून पाहिली त्या नंतर विकीचा नंबर टाकून. हॅलो,
हा परवा केली होती.
हा मग विकीचा नंबर टाकला होता आपण. काहीतरी
हा.
काय नंबर त्याचा? 10 माझा आहे, 11 त्याचा ना.
हा.
मग तेव्हा झालं होतं बरोबर ते.
तेव्हा झाली होती.
हम्म.
ठीक आहे, जाऊ बघू नंतर.
Create a specific material information record so that this material is always take plant 1000. Agreement मध्ये जायचं आहे ते बरोबर. मास्टर डाटा आणि अग्रीमेंट, कस्टमर मटेरियल इन्फॉर्मेशन.
थोडा वाजता फटके वाटेल यार रेकॉर्डिंग स्टॉप करू का?
राहू दे चालू, काही नाही, डबल येऊन जातं मग ते.
ओके.
Sorry guys, I'm just back. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so any specific doubts you have on so far on the outline agreements, or whichever we have discussed, scheduling agreements and the quantity contracts? I hope you are clear about that. So next we will discuss on what is a value contract. So in the case of a quantity contract, it is an agreement between you and your customer to supply certain quantity of material within a certain period of time. But in the case of value contract, it is also similar to that of a quantity contract, but here it would be based on the value of the material instead of the quantity. So you will agree to supply material worth $100,000 within a specific period of time. So that is an example of a value contract. So even in this value contract, you have two different types of value contracts. One is a general, we call it as a general value contract, and another is the material related value contract. So material related value contract will place a restriction on particular material worth $100,000 would be supplied within a specific period of time. But a general value contract, you can supply any material worth that value within that specific period of time. So that is the difference between a general value contract and a material related value contract. General value contract, you can supply any material worth that amount within a particular period of time which is mentioned in the contract. So this is a general value contract and a material related value contract. Then you have something called a rental contract, which you know, like we are seeing this in our everyday day-to-day life also. Whenever we are planning to rent a house, then we enter into a contract with the owner of the premises, and there will be certain terms and conditions, like we will pay this much money as a rent, and we need to pay this money within this first of every month or within 10th of every month, something like that. And that contract will be valid for a period of say 11 months or 10 months, something like that. So that is a rental contract. You are entering into an agreement with the owner of the premises so that you can occupy the premises for a certain period of time which has certain facilities. That also would be mentioned. So this apartment has these facilities, like it is semi-furnished or it is fully furnished. All these things would be specified there. So that is an example of a rental contract. And then we have something called the service or a maintenance contract. So if you buy a car or a two-wheeler or something like that, then you enter into certain kind of a service or a maintenance contract for a period of say 1 year or 2 years. So you need to service your bike for periodically for every 1,000 kilometers or every 2,000 kilometers, something like that. Then the showroom would enter into a contract with you, and they will specify the contractual terms and conditions based on which the contract would be valid for a certain period. So within that period, for every month you need to service your bike, then on that particular day you will get a reminder and you can take your bike to the showroom and they will service that, and then they will raise the invoice for that. So it's based on an agreement. You can have a service or a maintenance agreement. It is applicable for consumer products also, like you purchase a air conditioner or refrigerator or anything, then you can have this option of entering into an annual maintenance contract or service contract or anything like that for a certain period of time. You will have the option of providing the service to the customer. So this is an example of a service or a maintenance contract. So this is about the general contracts that is present in the outline agreements I have explained you. So quantity contract. So now it is not enough that we create a contract. We need to fulfill that contract. So now let us see how do we fulfill the contracts. So for example, now let us try to create a contract in first. Okay. So let us create a contract. So to create a contract, you can use a different transaction code. It is not sales order creation. So here you can go to sales. Here you can go to scheduling agreement, and if you want to create a scheduling agreement. So now let us try to create a contract. So you can go to VA41. So VA41 is the transaction to create a contract. VA42 is the transaction to change the contracts which you already created. And VA43 is the transaction which you can use to display the contracts which were created already. So now let us go to VA41 and try to create a quantity contract. So now let us create quantity contract QC for sales org 1000, distribution channel 12, and division 00. And let us see how this works. So now you have to enter your sold to party to whom you are planning to supply. Test contract. Give the material. So let me give my material. So let us say the target quantity is 100. Now here you need to give valid from date and valid to date. So let us assume that the contract is getting created with validity from today until 31st of December this year. So let us put it like this. Okay. So now here you see there is no schedule line here. So even if I select this, go to details, there is no schedule line. So this is the important difference between the normal sales document and a contract. So there is no schedule line. So you cannot tell when you are going to supply the material. It is just an agreement that you need to supply 100 pieces of this material within this time frame. When you will supply, this contract does not specify that. You can see here the item category KMN is determined. So this is the standard item category for quantity contract document types QC. So now here you see the pricing procedure. So sales area, all these are present here. Valid from valid to is there. So then we can check whether it is complete or incomplete. So if we go check the incompletion log, the document is complete. Here you see something called the billing plan. We will come to this little later. So now you have this contract. Now you are trying to save this. Now you are attempting to save the contract. Now let us try to display the contract which we have created. So this is a quantity contract. So it doesn't specify the value. Now let us go and check the contract. So this is the contract. It's not yet created or what? So this is the contract we created. Here you see this, the target quantity is 100 pieces. So you need, this is the target. So you need to supply this quantity. So this is called as the target quantity. So now it is not enough that we created the contract. We need to deliver this contract as per the contractual agreement. So whenever you wanted to deliver a contract, you cannot create a delivery from this contract. Instead, you need to create a release order from this contract. So release order, it can be a standard sales document. So you can create a release order of type OR. So that is the reason why, if you remember, when we discussed about the copying control, the possibility of creating a sales order from another sales order exists. So here the sales order, for example, is a contract. So you can create another order by referring to this contract, which is called the release order. Now, for example, now let us try to refer to this contract and we will create a release order for some quantity. So now let us go to VA01 and put order type as OR and create with reference. Here you can go to contract and update your contract. And here also you have the same options, item selection, copy, all these things. So let us copy. So here I think we have given the wrong distribution channel. So create with reference, contract. Sorry. So now we can copy this into the sales order. So now inside that you can try to specify what quantity you wanted to deliver. So first we will try to create release order for 10 pieces. Press enter. Then here you will see the schedule lines because this is a normal order. So you can see with the schedule line on 4th, the system wants to create the delivery. So if you want it for tomorrow or something like that, you can check. So now we can check if this order is complete. So we have the incompletion log. So purchase order number we added, if you remember, we added the purchase order number as a field which we wanted to have it complete before creating subsequent documents. So that's the reason why it is showing in incompletion log. So now test release order is the purchase order number. Now I have completed this. Now I am saving it. Now you created a contract for 100 quantity and you created a release order for 10 quantity out of that 100. Now you created a sales document. Now let us go and check how the document flow looks like. So you can select this and you can see that this is the quantity contract from which we have created this standard sales document. So now let us go back and let us now look at the contract, how the contract looks after we have created the order. So we have created one release order from this. So now it says consider the subsequent documents. Now here you have the subsequent document already created for this contract. Now here you see this target is already 100. So you don't see any other inputs here. Now let us assume that you have created some 10 release orders from this contract, and then when you create 10 release orders, each release order is having 10 quantity. So the total quantity is complete. Now the total contract quantity is completed. Then again, when you try to refer to this contract and create one more release order, is it possible? Guys, I have asked you a question.
Yes, sir.
So you understood my question? See,
Can
now,
can you please repeat?
see, please pay more attention. You have created a contract for 100 pieces, correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So then I created one release order for a quantity of 10. Okay. So now I will create another 9 release orders, each with quantity of 10. Now the total contract quantity 100 is consumed by all these release orders. Okay. Now, if I create the 11th order for another 10 quantity, which means that this quantity of 100 is already consumed. And on top of that, now I am trying to create a release order for another quantity of 10. Will the system allow or not is my question.
Sir, it's not allowed due by the
So, okay, because there is
okay,
no material that is available.
available.
So the
Yeah.
system ideally should not allow as per the standard process. The system should not allow you to create more orders from a quantity more system should not allow you to create orders when the entire contract's quantity is already consumed. So where do we have that particular setting here? So if we go to this item category KMN, so we can go there and we can check the setting for that which controls this particular behavior. So if we go to this item category configuration KMN, we will have a specific field called the contract release control. So I think I remember having told you that we will discuss about this field later. So this is what is the contract release control means. So here the if it is blank, what happens? So no response if target value is exceeded. So even if you try to create more orders with more quantity than the contract quantity, the system will not respond if the setting here is maintained blank. If you maintain it as A, the system will just give an warning. And if it's maintained as B, then error message if target value is exceeded. So all these are the responses, how the system has to behave when the target quantity is exceeded. So now in our case, we have it as blank, which means that the system will keep on allowing you to create orders from this contract, even though the contract's quantity is already consumed. So you need to ensure that you maintain a proper setting here to ensure that the contract's quantity does not get exceeded. Otherwise, the system will continuously keep creating orders by referring to the old contract, even though the entire quantity is already consumed. Okay, so you understood this?
Yes, sir.
And then we have one more important setting in the copy control process. So let us check what is that setting. Already we have seen that setting, but now it is specific to the contract that I would like to show that setting to you. So now we'll go to the copy control and look at how this setting is. So now go to sales and distribution, sales, maintain copy control for sales documents. So sales document to sales document. So now you're attempting to create a sales document, which is OR, from another sales document, which is a quantity contract QC, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now let us look at how the copying control is set. Okay, now our source is, sorry, our target should be placed here. Our target is OR. Our source is QC. So our target is standard sales order. Our source is QC. Now you can go and check the settings at the header level. So there are no specific settings. So we can go to the item and you can select the item category of the source. Generally, this copy control configuration, whenever you open, it will take some time because it will read more data in the background to bring up that screen. So now let us check the KMN is the item category. So you will go and select this and go to details. So here you have something called update document flow, which is very important because if you don't check this, what would happen is the document flow will not get updated, which means that how much ever documents you create by referring to the contract will not get updated in the document flow, which means that you will not be able to see all those release orders that you create from the contract. So that is the significance of having this update document flow checked. So this is one important setting. And the another important setting is at the order type level. So what is the order type that we use for the contract is V is QC, right? So QC is the quantity contract document type, which we can go here, we can select the details. See here, we have a specific tab which has called contract. So inside this only we have all the settings related to the contract. So if I remember, I have told you that we will discuss these settings when we discuss the contracts. So this is the setting which you need to make here, although for the quantity contract they have not made any settings. So why you saw that see, update low level contract, check partner authentication, subsequent order type, follow up activity type, contract data allowed, all these fields would be pertaining to the settings of the quantity contract. So update low level contract in the sense we have a concept called a master contract, and inside that master contract we can group other contracts into that. So we can create a master contract, and inside that contract we can place quantity contracts, value contracts, rental contracts, or service and maintenance contracts for a particular customer. So whenever you have this contracts that is getting changed or any significant information that gets updated, then the lower level or any important change that happens at the master contract level, then that change has to be updated at the lower level contracts. So that if you want such a update to happen, then you need to check the setting here. So this is the setting that will update the lower level contracts in case if any change happens to your higher level contract or the master contract. So if you want to group all these contracts under one master contract, then you need to have a group referencing procedure created. So what is the group referencing procedure, or where we can see the group referencing procedure? So this is another contract. So we are so far discussed only this much. So you can add another contract called the master contract, where you can group low level contracts into this contract. So which contracts can be grouped into a master contract will be decided based on the group reference procedure. So you will be having a group reference procedure So let us see how that looks like. Go to SPRO. There are certain settings which are specific to this contract. So now we can go to sales and distribution. Sales document contracts. Here you will have master contract. So in there, this master contract define referencing requirements. Select this, define reference sales document type and define referencing procedures. So now define referencing procedures. First, let us check this. So you can create your own reference procedure and assign procedure to your master contract. So what are the contracts that can be grouped under a master contract will be decided based on this particular setting. So here this is the sample reference procedure SDGK. So you can select this, go to the fields. So these are the fields that will be placed in this reference procedure. So now you can assign this procedure to your master contract, and you can try to also set up the document types that can be grouped into your master contract. So these are the contracts that can be grouped into your master contract. So this is the master contract GK, which is the standard master contract document type, and inside this master contract you can group all these contracts. So if you don't have any contracts assigned to your master contract, you cannot add that contract into your master contract. Now, for example, we already created a quantity contract. Now let us create a master contract and try to assign that into that master contract. For example, now let us create a master contract GK. So inside this master contract, it will ask us to add all our lower level contracts. So now we already created one quantity contract. So this master contract is using external number range. So it is asking us to give a number. So we have given our number, test master. So from today until end of this year, no, I don't know why this is not allowing us to add anything here. So ideally what should happen is these are the lower level contracts. Here you should go into this, the system should allow you to add your contracts here. So what contracts you can add will be dependent on this particular setting. So you can add quantity contracts, you can add rental contracts, you can add general value contract, material related value contract, service and maintenance contract into your master contract. So here I am not sure why this is showing as grayed out. Let's see if you are able to save this. So I'm not sure why we are not able to add here. So this is about the master contract. So although I am not able to show you this, but conceptually, are you able to understand this?
Yes, sir.
So select an entry. There is no entry that is happening here. Master contract. Okay, I will try to check this why we are not able to add any contracts here. So in the meanwhile, you can just try to understand that what is a master contract and how we can create a master contract and what is the significance of having the group reference procedure. So let us try to check the configuration of this master contract GK. Let's check. See, they have added the group reference procedure here and the contract profile here. So now contract data is allowed. So all these settings are specific to the master contract. So now let us check what is a contract profile. How do we create a contract profile? So here they have added contract profile 0002 to this master contract. So what is a contract profile and how do we create our own contract profiles? So now we can go to SPRO, go to sales and distribution, sales documents, contracts, contract data, define contract profiles. So define contract profiles means each contract we will be having certain terms and conditions for the start date, for the end date, and in case if the customer wants to cancel the contract prematurely, what action we need to take. So all these kind of behaviors we can configure in the contract profile and assign that contract profile to our contract document type. So now we saw that the contract profile 0002 was assigned to the master contract. So now let us check how this contract profile is created. So here you can see what is the contract start rule, end rule, validity period category, what is the cancellation procedure, and what is the action and action date rule. So each of these will have its own significance. So what is the contract start date? We will have a certain rule. So whether it will be from the date of creation or whether it can be a little, it can be in the past or it can be in the future. So contract start date, there will be a certain rule. So here they have assigned rule number 4 here. So contract start date will be based on this rule. So what is the rule 4? So here rule 4 is nothing but acceptance date. Whenever the system, whenever they are accepting this contract on that date would be the start date. Always if you put 01, today's date would be the contract's start date. So here they have used 04 as the contract start rule. Contract end rule will be contract start date plus contract validity. So contract start date is, for example, is today, and validity for this contract, let us say 6 months. So contract end date will be calculated based on this rule. What is the validity period category? For this particular profile, it is always 6 months is the validity period category. So it will be always 01, which means 6 months. If they maintain it as 02, then the validity period category will always be 1 year. So similarly, we can also create our own validity period category. And what is the cancellation procedure? So in case if your customer wants to cancel the contract prematurely, then we can use this cancellation procedure that is used here. And what action we need to take in case if they cancel. So we can create a follow-up contract for that. For example, if the contract they want to cancel it, and what action we will take once the cancellation is happened, we can create a subsequent, we can create another contract, or we can create a quotation by referring to that contract. So what kind of follow-up action is expected in case of a cancellation, and that action date rule, and when the contracts cancels, what would be the action date rule, and what rule we need to adopt when you are taking a particular action. So that action date rule will be mentioned here. So here you can see whenever you create a, when the contract is cancelled, then they create a quotation against that contract, and the date rule they adopted here is 19, which is end of contract minus 1 month. So for example, 31st December is the end of contract. Now before that itself, if the customer is cancelling the contract, then we create a quotation by referring to that contract, and the start period of that quotation will be 1 month minus the end date of the contract. So it will be on 30th of November. So that is how the start date for the subsequent document will be fixed. So this is the contract profile, and this is the contract profile which has been assigned to our master contract. You can create your own contract profiles, and that can be assigned to your contract document types. So there again, we saw some other important configurations inside the contract document, like follow-up activity type, subsequent order type, and what is the partners that needs to be released from the contract. So you have a contract, so for example, a quantity contract, and in that you might be having some partners, sold to, ship to, bill to, payer. So what are the partners that needs to get released from that partner into your subsequent document type will be decided based on the check partner authentication setting. Then what would be the follow-up activity type? So if the contract is ended, then what activity you need to follow, like whether you need to call that customer to renew the contract, or whether you need to create some subsequent documents or any new contract we can create. All these will be specified here. And subsequent order type. So what is the subsequent order type? So if so subsequent order type is, in case for a contract, what type of order it has to create for by referring to that particular contract is called the subsequent order type. So here enter an order type in this field if you want the system to propose a follow-up order type automatically within subsequent processing. So for example, you are creating a release order from the contract. So if you want to restrict only that a particular document type has to be created against this contract, then we can specify that order type. If you don't specify anything here, the system will give you the flexibility to create document type of your own by referring whenever you create a release order. You can create your own release document types. So then what is the pricing procedure for the header, and what would be the pricing procedure for the contracts item? You can mention here. We at this point of time you are not aware of what is the pricing procedure, so maybe once we go to that pricing procedure, then you can get a understanding of this. And then you have something called the billing request. So billing request is nothing but in case of some service and maintenance contracts, the customer might have asked you to service the their product, for example a refrigerator or something. When you go there, the customer might also ask you for some other service, like you might have gone there to only service the refrigerator. By after you go there, you realize that the refrigerator needs some other service as well, so which was not mentioned in the original service agreement, like some spare might have been gone, or some repair might have come up additionally. So you take up that additional work also, which is not specified in the original contract. So in those cases, how the billing has to be done, so that will be decided based on the setting here. So you take up some additional work which is not part of the original contract, and how do we do the billing for that work which is not part of the original contract would be decided based on the setting here. Then we know what is the group referencing procedure. Then we have something called the RDP profile. So let me check what is that RDP profile. Even risk distribution plan profile. So this is more or less related to the risks in treasury and risk management. So we are not using this so frequently in the sales and distribution contracts. So if you want more details like what is the treasury and risk management module, you need to check. So this is about the configuration settings that are specific to contract. So now we need to understand something called the assortment module. So what is an assortment module and how that is used in case of contracts? So every time it would be that the customer would be ordering only certain set of materials. So every time the customer is ordering some materials, A, for example, there is a material A which they order 100 quantity, and B, another material B, they order some 200 quantity, another material C, they order some 300 quantity. So every time this customer is ordering the same material and same quantity. So in order to reduce the manual work, instead of going manually into the contract and typing these materials and quantities, what we can do is we can create an assortment module. We can go to transaction WSO1, and there we can create an assortment module and store that assortment module, and whenever you want, you are creating an order or a contract, you can call that assortment module. See, now let us create an assortment module. So module type is standard. So then press enter. So now this is the assortment module number. Now this is valued from today until, for example, let us put this as end of this year. So then we can give this material. So you can give another material. You can give another material. Likewise, you can enter your own materials for this particular validity, and you can save this. Now your module has been maintained. Now let us now go and create our own contract. So let us go and create our contract VA 41. Now it has got quantity contract. Now what here we can do is here you can go to Hmm. One second. One second, guys. Okay, so I think, well, sorry, I have created wrongly quantity contract. So it should be a value contract. So let us try to create a value contract. So material related value contract. Let us, this is the standard document type, which we can use here. So here, enter sold to. So we can go to sign contract term. So just what we need to do, we have now created an assortment module. So then we need to use that assortment module to create the value contract. So that's what we are trying to look into. So just give me a minute. let us create a value contract. Create with reference. Guys, let me check this. I'm facing some issues.
Yes.
So this assortment module, I will let you know. Although you may not be able to find anything related to assortment module in your thing, I just wanted to share this with you. So I will check this and let you know tomorrow. Okay. So the value contracts is nothing but it will be used whenever you wanted to restrict the value of the material. So for example, you wanted to restrict your customer to buy only certain material of certain value. So without restricting it against the material, you are trying to restrict it against the value. So for that value, you can give any material that you wanted to give to that particular customer. So that is the difference between a quantity contract and a value contract. So even you can create a material related value contract or general value contract as well. So any doubts so far on whatever we have discussed?
No, sir.
Okay. So you can go through the examples and also the exercises. So
Yes.
then maybe if you have any doubts, then I think we can discuss in tomorrow's session as well. So generally what you need to understand is what is a contract. So what are the different types of contracts that are used in the system?
So
And
your
then once you, sorry,
voice breaking.
how it is now?
Clear.
Okay, so now contracts generally are defined as quantity contracts, value contracts, service and maintenance contracts, and rental contracts. So now we have seen what is a quantity contract. So here you can specify the material and the quantity which you wanted to restrict your contract creation. So if you have a certain material and you wanted to restrict that by quantity, then you use the quantity contract. On the other hand, if you don't have any specific restriction on the material, you can create a value contract. So then we have seen what is a rental contract or what is a service or a maintenance contract and how they work. And then we also saw what is the master contracts as well. So master contracts generally will have this group referencing procedure where you can assign all the lower level contracts based on this group referencing procedure. You can have the lower level contracts assigned to your master contract. So we saw that, but we were not able to create a master contract because the option of assigning the lower level contracts was grayed out. So we were not able to do that, although we created a master contract. Then what is a release order? We have seen release order is nothing but the order that gets released from the contract. So just by creating contract, we don't have the visibility of the schedule line or the quantities that would be delivered on those schedule lines, because a contract doesn't have a schedule line. So only when we create a release order against the contract, we would be able to deliver the contract. So that is about the release orders. So we saw what is a target quantity, and then we saw what is a open quantity we saw, then how we create how these update of quantities happens. So we saw what is the contract release control button and what is the options for that in the item category. So where is that setting we have seen. So here you can see propose items. Let us check if the assortment module works here. So here default without with without quantity. It's okay. Input too long. Sales document. List. Okay. I don't know why this assortment module. Okay, so we will check this assortment module, how we can use an assortment module to create a contract. We will look into that tomorrow. So meanwhile, if you have any doubts on the concepts that we have discussed so far, we can discuss your queries now. Any doubts from anyone?
No, sir.
Okay, how about others?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So if you want to continue, we can continue, or maybe you can take some time to look at the exercises for these contracts and incompletion procedure. You can do that. How you wish to proceed, you can let me know.
Sir, I guess it's done for the day.
Okay, fine
Yes,
then. So let us continue our discussion tomorrow. And maybe if you have any doubts, we can discuss that as well tomorrow. So
yes, sir.
you please continue with your practical sessions and also the learning.